Hello there, and welcome once again to my little arty corner of YouTube. My name's Angela. I'm known as Artwyrd, sort of. It's not my nom de plume, but sort of like my nickname, but it's my business name is Artwyrd, and my surname's Porter, which means if you're familiar with colouring books, you'll know those two names, Angela and Porter, put together, but only if you know mine. So I'm whittering on here. It's Thursday the 24th of March 2022, and yesterday I made a video with variations of Huggins in, and Huggins is a Zentangle pattern that is one of my favourites. It looks very complicated to draw, yet it's not. It's a series of simple steps, and I'll draw Huggins with you partly again today just to remind you of this. But I didn't exhaust the possibilities of variations of Huggins, and I'm never going to exhaust the possibilities of variations because new things come all the time. And where I left you yesterday was with this page in my sketchbook that wasn't filled in. There were plenty of blank spaces in the Huggins grid. I've since filled it in. I did a lot of it while yesterday's video was processing, uploading and whatever it does, because I like to let my computer get on with that and not fuss around and do other things. And some of it then I went on and did last night, this morning, because that's what I do. I sit in bed for a while and I draw as I start to come around. Some days I manage to come around fully, other days like yesterday I'm a bit of a daze all day. Today I'm okay. So loads of patterns here and it looks really complicated, and I guess it is. But I didn't think I would like this, but I actually quite like it. It's almost like an old-fashioned needlework sampler of stitches and patterns and things that are just put together. But I'm starting to add colour to help make sense of things. So I've chosen for the bands that are going vertically on the page, I'm going to use this. This is Autumn Brown, a graphitin pencil. And going sideways, I'm using this greeny grey, slate grey, and that will help to separate hopefully different things out. And even with just this single colour added and paying attention to making it darker where I want the shadow and highlights, it's already bringing out the dimension of these patterns. It's crazy. This was the other page that I was working on yesterday, and I think you can see I've added to it. And I've mentioned before, and I'll mention it again, I'm doing a lettering course at the moment. I haven't looked at another lesson for a week because I'm pottering around and potching around with stuff and just playing around with letters. And I realised these shapes would be perfect to put letters into, which is fun because that means that we could put a message in Huggins. We could put a single word or something else, or a sentiment or a greeting. It could be quite fun to do. And whether you choose to use the vertical sections or the horizontal sections or mix and match like a code, it could be fun. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not going to do that today because I've got to try it out to see whether it'll work and if I like it. And I've got some other variations there, but there's more. Because this morning I realised that there are many different kinds of grids that we can use. And again, I will show you, if you wish, how to do these different grids. I'm not going to be doing all this today. It's just a quick preamble or show what I'm doing and what I'm thinking. So we've got a regular grid, one of these crazy grids. This one I've tried is a bit of like an op art grid, but I really need to do it on a bigger scale so that I can get the variations in sizes more. So it goes from narrow to wide, back to narrow. This one was drawn freestyle, no grids, just starting with 4 dots and growing it from those 4 circles. Huggins works nicely in a circle. It really does. Or as an arc, or as a border band, ribbon, which is fun. And you can get, I tried lifting the circles away from the edge so it's like you get a little preview into a full-blown grid, like you're looking through. Or I just had them up to the edge and allowing these shapes just to be as they are, like this one. I like that. It reminds me of early Celtic art, the 10A art. And then I went on to another page And I've got some other grids here. This one was what is called, I suppose, a mistangle, or it was an oops, I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. But that is an interesting grid, which is made of circles and sort of like these curved edge diamond shapes. I'm sure this is already a grid somewhere or a tangle pattern, but I'm not going to go hunting for it. But I just thought, oh, that's nice. So I've left it there. That mistangle. This one I did, and I basically tried to make the dots on the grid as small as possible so the dots disappear, and we're left with these. You can do it with a pencil grid, which is what I was trying to do here, and that can form this kind of thing. And then I was looking at extending these edges and seeing how we can create shapes that go under and over. I realised as well this shape is interesting on its own. Oh, there's another op art one where I'm using curved lines to create like a spherical shape, like a dome shape, and you could extend these lines horizontally out and carry on a fairly regular, or vertically, a fairly regular horizontal line, so it'll look like there's a big bulge in your pattern of Huggins. These could make lovely motifs as focal points or scattered in entangled, Zentangle inspired art. And then I thought, well, will any other shapes other than circles work? So I put some diamond shapes instead of circles. This is what I mean by the points on the grid, the corners of the squares or shapes we're working with. And these work quite nicely, but it does take a bit of thought as to how you do it. And I thought, oh, let's try and angle these lines instead of keeping them smooth. Oh, I got confused. You know, so that did my head in. That's when I gave up for now on that. But I think that could be quite interesting. And I sort of know, and while I think about it, let me get my glasses, which are over here. Excuse my arm. I'll do this with you. Is if I create, let me have a look. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and perhaps I'm trying to work out how we can do this in the centre, because if I put 6 dots in, it's going to be no different to doing a circular arrangement. So let me have a look, and I'm going to pop something like a circle in the middle, and let's do I'm using this idea of Huggins, which is alternating ins and outs. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's fun. So instead of getting a square, we're getting these triangular shapes, these almost ginkgo leaves, and ones that are a bit different. Well, that's fun. I like that. Now that's something else for me to explore now, isn't it? I could spend a lifetime just looking at Huggins, it seems. I think that might be an exaggeration, but you never know. So I'm going to go back to this page. What I have done is I've got some pieces of paper, because I want that as reference. I'm going to try my best to actually pick out ones that I didn't show yesterday. And see where we go with that. So a refresher very quickly on drawing Huggins. We're going to join dots next to each other with arches. So the first one, if you go up, the next one you go down. And I'm doing this big and bold. I'm using a Pentel brush sign pen, a pigment version, so that if I choose to use wet media to add colour or shadow, I can do so. And I didn't colour these pieces of paper with distress inks before I started because, well, I didn't. I was letting my computer update. It had an update to do, so I was preparing myself partly for this. So while I'm doing this, can I just say a huge thank you to all my subscribers, especially to those who've recently joined. It's lovely to have you on board and that you think that what I'm doing is good enough, that you want either notifications of it or, you know, just to follow what I'm doing and to join in, hopefully. And I just hope, you know, it's something a bit different, hopefully, to what other people do. It's like YouTube. It's really, really hard to get my head around the fact that I have perhaps something to offer that is different to other people. And then a friend said to me, because I was talking about this with her, and she said, of course you've got something different to offer, Angela. You've got yourself and your own way of doing things. And I guess that's part and parcel of it, isn't it? And also I've discovered I've got a bit of a thing for doing these variations. I find it fun. So thank you for joining me and putting up with my quirkiness as well, or perhaps delighting in it. I don't know. Never quite know what people think. So I've got all of this here. I've got another grid over here ready to go, kind of. And I'd also like to say thank you for all the likes for my videos and for lots of comments yesterday. And I haven't answered them yet. That's something I'm going to do while this video is processing and uploading and processing again and whatever. Okay, so I am going to put these bands on as well. So yeah, so a huge thank you for all the likes, all the subscribes, all of the lovely comments. And if you've shared my videos, a video or many videos on my channel with other people who might like it, I thank you very much for doing that as well. I'm getting close to 600 subscribers, which is amazing me. I never would have thought it. But I'm also not doing this for that. You know, if I can reach one person and encourage them to be more creative, or to have a go at being creative, to put aside their fear and self-doubt and lack of self-confidence, just to pick a pen or a pencil up and have a go, then if I've done that with just one person, I think I've done a good job here. But I know from your comments I've reached more than one person, so thank you. And it is my absolute pleasure to do this, and I don't know if honour's the right word, but oh look, I've missed one out there. I'm not sure I explained this because I got sidetracked, didn't I? Okay, so everything is all a repetition of up and down as you connect these together. And these outside ones, I like to add a little cap, and I've just realised we can make variations here. So I'll do a straight one. I've done one with a little point on the top. Perhaps we can make one that's a little bit on the frilly side, just for fun. Again, just different shapes. And who says we can't do a double one there? Perhaps with a cheeky little crescent moon stuck in there, as it's called in Zentangle. And I'll just do the last couple just plain and ordinary. I'm sure there are many, many more that I could do. It's just that I'm aware that I'm getting myself sidetracked again. This hadn't occurred to me until now. Okie doke, so let's have a look at some I didn't show yesterday. Okie dokes, let me have a think. All right, one that I particularly liked that I did. So I am going to pop a circle in the middle of this, and I'm going to draw some curved lines down to the middle of it. It doesn't have to be exactly the middle, but these curve outwards towards the border's edge, the edge of the borders. And I'm going to pop an aura underneath, so it appears like it's disappearing underneath. Then you could fill the whole of this section in if you wanted with that, but I'm not going to, because I want to do something in this section. And in my version here, I'll put two versions in this. So one version, I just did some ever smaller versions of this V shape until I got down to a shape that I thought was too, well, I could put a smaller one in, but I want some of that bold black there. So that's one thing that I did. But then as I was drawing this, it just occurred to me that I could weave these. I'm weaving them in this way where I'm drawing a line in this direction up to this outside line and then back this way, trying to keep the distance between them about the same, but it doesn't have to be precisely. And then I'm down to a little gap there. Perhaps all of that I'll fill in, because then it's about the same size as the other. Same kind of pattern, just, you know, sort of like a little embellishment. So this one here is just that little bit fancy. And then for this one, I want that edge on it because it doesn't feel finished without that little border there. So I've done that underneath. And while we're doing something like this, let me just pop this in. And I'm going to do the same shape here, like so. But with this one, I'm going to do a tweed, which is very similar to this, but instead of having almost like rectangular shapes, curved rectangles, but rectangular shapes, we're starting at the corner at the bottom, and these lines are bent to follow the shape of this line here, but they weave in the middle. So this is betweed, is the Zentangle pattern. Now I know I did this yesterday, but I filled the entire shape. Here I'm going to fill these wedges. So I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to start on the same side that I did the other. And I'm just alternating back and forth, trying to keep the distance between them about the same. This must be a comfortable place for me to put my hand on my paper so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to finish that little bit off at the bottom. There's just a little bit of black there. And I think with this again, I'm going to do a very thin outer border, which would look absolutely delightful in gold or in colour. So these two are kind of related, aren't they? Only kind of. Okay, I'm going to go to this one now, and I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to put a tiny circle though there, and then what I'm going to do is connect these in a similar way, but to the sides of this. So instead of using these shapes here, I'm going to use the ones on the edge. So for these, I'm just going to do a couple of aura and something that is quite black on the sides to focus that area. And I'm just going to leave it like that, although I am tempted with this one. In fact, I think I will just pop another couple of lines in there, and then perhaps just add an echo of that shape there. And I like that because I like the empty space. It helps to separate one thing from another, I suppose. So this is related, but you can see I've taken these shapes sort of, these are more rounded, and pop them horizontal instead of vertical. So we could fill these with betweed, we could fill them with anything at all you would like to fill there, which is quite fun and funky and cool. Okay, I'm having a quick look up at these. All right, so how about if we create some kind of band in the middle like this? So it's like an I shape, but we're bending it's like a simple capital letter I, but we're bending these sides inward. So let's see how we can make use of that. I'm just looking at my book, my notes for this. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go from the middle down like this, and I'm going to echo it there. So we've got almost, it's an arch or it's a truncated leaf. We've kept, the bottom of the leaf is hidden under here, and I am going to aura inside like so, and then shall I? I think I will with this. This isn't exactly how I've drawn it before in my book, but other variants are allowed. And then we've got these lovely shapes on the side that I'm going to emphasize by popping this kind of shape in that I love so much. Okay, I'm just going to tidy these lines up, and then what I'm going to do here as well, I'll get my thicker pen out, just fill this in with black. I think I've said often enough, have a range of pen nib sizes or types of pens. You don't have to have many, but a fine line, a medium fine line, and something like this, and then you've got the ability to colour in black areas quite quickly. Just tidying this up because my pen work wasn't quite so good. I'm not so keen on this one as the one that is in the notes. I think in my notes, in my sketchbook, I haven't made any notes for this. I'm making it up as I go along, which is my usual case. I have a plan. It's a very vague plan. But to get this done like that, I tell you what the difference is as well, is that I think I popped some lines in here just to separate these out to add. That's better. Like so. Pop another one in there. That needs one there. There we go. So quite a bit different, but we've got this shape that's going under here, isn't it? So I'm making a bit of a pig's ear. I'm going to thicken these outside lines here and try and have them feeling more like they connect underneath this band, and that will come to life with shadow. Not my best perhaps, but it's not bad. Okay, what else didn't I show you yesterday? Quite a lot actually. Okay, this one I enjoyed doing greatly, and I am going to do a pencil grid here. I'm going to start with a vertical line, a band in the middle and top, and that's all I'm going to do because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. But in my sketchbook I did do this a lot. Just move this in and down a bit so we're perhaps zoomed in a little bit. There we go, that's a bit better. I did this a lot smaller and crammed a lot more into a smaller space. But I'm drawing on a big scale, so hopefully you can see and follow. So what I'm doing is I'm squashing these shapes in to this grid. So in effect, I'm trying to draw a squarish shape that fits this space but has rounded corners. I'm trying to squash a squishy ball into a square space. But I don't really want it to be circular entirely, because we could just put a circle in there. But I want the sides to be flat, as the little box we're putting them into is. Now that on its own is an interesting pattern. It's a Zentangle pattern called Untitled, and you can leave it like that. But what I like to do is to pop something in the middle, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to start a little bit out from the corner and I'm going to draw that kind of shape. Then I'm going to do the same this way, and then this way. So I get this kind of X shape or cross in the middle. And yeah, it's wonky because the shapes are wonky, and that's fine. You get used to it, you can actually draw the shape in one continuous line. But break it down if you need to. So one there, one there, one there, and one there. And it looks now like I've got little pebbles, almost with little holes in. Oh, that's a weird shape one, but that's fine. They don't all have to be perfect or exactly the same, because if somebody is going to look at it closely enough and look for these imperfections, then they're not somebody who's going to appreciate necessarily what you're doing. And don't let that person be you. Look at the overall picture, sit back from it, hold it out at arm's length, take a break and come back and look at it, and you won't notice those little imperfections so much, especially if you give yourself several days and forget what you did. So I like that. These little bits we can fill in, or we can leave them as they are. I'm going to leave them as they are for now because I quite like those. Here's a really simple pattern to fill this in, and it involves imagining there's a circle here, and I'm going to draw little lines around that circle to create a pattern like that. And I'm going to do this in lots of places, and I'm going to vary the size of these circles. Some can be big, and that helps if you draw bigger lines, oddly. I don't know what it is about drawing longer lines that makes you draw a bigger circle. Perhaps it's just me. Or smaller circles, or even filling in the spaces in between with tiny little circles, like so. This reminds me of fossilized coral, almost. It's not exactly the same, but it's got that feeling of being a mineral, that kind of pattern you get in rocks sometimes, or fizzy drink. In fact, I think this might be a pattern that's called CO2. I could be wrong, but I like it for filling in spaces. It gives a lighter area feel, and I like that contrast with the others, which are a bit denser in line. Nice big one there, perhaps a big one here. So it does look like lots of little bubbles popping and fizzing, like a fizzy drink, like that. So it's a nice contrast to these others, which are fairly dense. I didn't do one like this yesterday. I didn't do one that was filled with perk, but what I did do, and I am going to do that here, is I used Moonberry, which is, I suppose, a perk variation. These moonberries look like blueberries, where those little stars, which we then draw a little aura around, look like those little bits you get on them. You know, the remains of the flower of the blueberry plant, or the little bit at the bottom where it was, you know, yeah, that is the same thing. We have those little remnants. It's where the flower was originally. And so you can even fill these in with organic shapes like this, which could be quite fun. Plenty of opportunity to practice adding shadow. And vary where you put the star shape. So I'm going to pop a nice big one here. Perhaps another one here. And then we can have a couple just tucked in. Try and squash in as many as you can. And for this one, I would say where you've got these little gaps, just fill them in with black, just to suggest that these are all wedged into a little, you know, compartment that's bounded by the lines of Huggins. It's a secret blueberry stash on Moonberry. So that's a bit different. Okay. What other ones? I'm looking at ones that I can share fairly quickly and easily because I can see what the time is. So my aim, I think, is to get, like, if I can get this section done, 2 more done, then I've got the rest to do in another video another day. And I've got another grid. And I've got all of those other grids and ways of working to show you. Okay, let's have a look. All right, I'm going to do one that has a band in the middle again, like so. And then behind this band, I'm going to pop a flower, just like that. If you don't recognise the pen I'm using today, perhaps I ought to mention this. And again, I'm not sponsored or paid or gifted product. I buy everything myself. But this is a Sakura pen. It's a Pigma Sensei and it's an 04. And it's similar, I suppose, to the Micron PNs, except the nib is slightly different as well. I don't like the other pens in the Sensei line. I find the nibs are a bit too soft for me and they wear out much more quickly, I think, than the Microns do. But this pen seems to last me a lot longer than the PN does. So they've got sturdier nibs. So they're not so easy for me to come across here in the UK, but it is possible to get them. Now then, I've got choices here what to do. So I think I'm going to do something that's not in my sketchbook, and I'm going to add some mucus growing out from the centre of this flower and just filling this space. I'm going to start with 2 because I want to draw the same kind of thing top and bottom, and the only way to do that is in stages. As I remember what I've just done, I can repeat the other side. And then I think we can here just fill in perhaps with a couple of smaller ones. I'm going to fill in these little spaces around them, and I can do the same here, like so, and then like that. So we've got some mookas in there. Try and tidy those up because you'll see them because it's on such a big scale, like that. And then here I'm going to fill that in, and I think I'm going to fill it in with petals, so it's like there's a flower here that's similar to my flower that I've started with down at the centre. The only difference is this has got a black centre and my flower down here doesn't, but that's okay because we can change that. I want to make it all black, but if I put a smaller one in there, that will do nicely. And then I can fill these gaps in with black, I think, because I don't want to fill them in with too much because it will just get busy. So I'll just do this quickly. So if you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are enjoying this video and other videos and you haven't subscribed, then please consider doing so. And if you hit the bell button next to subscribe, you will get notifications of when I release videos, which is, well, just about every single day really. Because even when I'm working on contracts on the next colouring book, I still need time to do what I want to do that isn't necessarily in a colouring book, as it were. And I quite like helping people or encouraging people to be creative. I do share a bit about my art and how I do things and my thought process, just a bit. Ooh, that bit there needs darkening. There we are. So that's really black and white, but it really does help the background elements to stick out. I think what I'm going to do with these bigger ones is carry on this line and create a spiral inside them. I don't think I'll do that. Will I do that with the smaller ones? I can with this one because this one is perhaps here we can just have that coming around. That's nice. So that works nicely. I like that one. Okay, one more. I did a simple fill here, and I think I'll do a simple one here. Now I'm going to do this with black stars on a white background, but you could do it with clear stars on a coloured background or black background if you draw these stars open. So to draw an open star, start with an upside down V shape, another V shape, another V shape, and 2 more V shapes like that, or a W shape, and you get a star. But I'm going to fill mine in. And that's my biggest star I'm going to have here, because all my others are going to be smaller. Because I can draw these. This way is up, down, so you get the V shape. To the point on the left, to the point on the right, and back down to join them to create that 5-pointed star. There are many ways of doing stars, of drawing them. This is how I do them. But do what you are most comfortable with, is what I'm going to say. This would be fab done, for example, with a gold pen. leave this whole section blank or colour it in black, and then use a gold pen or a silver pen to put the stars on, or a white pen. So that's another way of doing it. I just quite like the idea of reversing what stars are like, just to get this pattern going and to fill it in here and now. So that's quite a bit of fun. I think so. There we go. And we can also then just pop perhaps some little pointers in, just to fill in little gaps where perhaps it feels like the space is just that little bit too open, but there's not enough space to put another star in. So how does that work? I think that works quite nicely. Okay, so move that up, pop that there for a moment. I'm going over to my box of graphitint pencils, so I now have things in boxes. Quite scary really. I'm starting to organise myself a bit better. I'll soon get bored with that. Okay, let's have a look at a couple of these. So where these curve outwards, so here and here, is where I really would like there to be quite a bit of shadow. So I am going to pop a fair amount of the graphitint here. Now, bearing in mind as well is that if it's not dark enough, I can always add more. So getting it right first time isn't important. And the Canson Imagine paper that I'm using, it's mixed media paper, so it actually works quite well with wet media, if I remember rightly. It's been a while since I've used it, mind you. So what I'm doing is I'm just using a barely damp brush. I may need it to make it slightly damper, just to tease some of this colour out and down. I do need to just press the button just to release a little bit more water. There we are, it's better. And then working these back towards the line, the darker area. That's better. Perhaps I can just tease a bit more colour down, especially around the edges. And we've got that highlight there, so I think you can see what's happening. And I'm going to do the same here. Just tease some of that colour out, particularly along the lower edge, just to give that shadow along the lower edge, and keep an area fairly light towards the middle, like a sparkle, like a highlight. And with graphitints, because they aren't permanent when they've dried, you can always lift the colour up if there's too much colour in a section after it's dried or as you're working. Best to leave it to dry, because even though this is mixed media paper, it's not very keen on being messed about with. Now I do want to put this area in shadow, so I want to use a darker colour. And my indigo is rather not very sharp, but I think indigo would do it. I do like this combination of this reddish brown and indigo. It's like rusty steel. Sometimes you get this lovely blue colour in rust. Well, I say sometimes, you do. You look closely, you find all colours in rust actually. And sort of like verdigris, oxidised copper. It's one of my favourite things to do. I say one of my favourite, there were many favourite things I love to do as a science teacher. But teaching about oxidation states of transition metals. So transition metals include things like copper and iron, and they have different forms of compounds. So you might have heard the terms ferrous and ferric, for example. And the compounds for ferrous and ferric will be different colours. And but copper oxides, there are so many different copper oxides, and they range in colour from black to the most beautiful burgundy and purple and magenta and a green and a yellowy colour and a bluey colour. It's just gorgeous. And this is made use of in raku. And raku is a way of creating pottery where you fire it with the glaze on in an atmosphere where there's very little oxygen. so they don't get oxidized to heck. And with copper in the glaze, you get all of these beautiful, beautiful colours. I love that kind of recousse so much. And the finish is kind of velvety almost, or it's got this very soft, oh, it's just beautiful. I can't describe it. I just love it. So I have one tiny little recousse pot in my house, and I'd love to learn how to recousse. I'm sure it's a phrase. I'm sure it's a verb. How to recousse. So in this one, I'm just putting some shadow, darker colour behind the bits I want to bring to the forefront. So this section I want, it's plain, but I want it to be behind the other one, and I want some colour in it, because as it's got no pattern, it's still there as part of the overall pattern, but I'd like it to be the base, if you like, what lies behind this particular shape. And I do actually need a lot more colour there. I might have been better off using Inktense pencils. Perhaps that's what I need to do, is to create a collection of Inktense and Graphitint pencils that work well together. And while I'm at it, let's do the same with this area here. I really could do with sharpening this pencil, but I'm not entirely sure where my pencil sharpeners are at the moment, so I'm not going furtling around for them. Oh, furtling means searching through things, sort of like looking for something, or looking through something. So you furtle around in the bushes, you might be furtling around the bushes looking for something, berries or something you've lost. So, fussing around and searching, I suppose, and yeah, just furtling around. Yeah. It's not a Welshism, it's a Britishism somewhere. I'm not quite sure which part of the country it comes from. But fertile, to fertile. Furtling around. You certainly do find out things here, don't you? And you may have noticed I do have a love of language and etymology. Okay, just for a bit of variation. Yeah, I think here, these bands, I've got a steel blue colour out, so this is going to be much more of a grey blue, darker than the indigo by the looks on it, possibly. Just to separate this band out from the indigo, and also from these lumpy bumpy bits. Look at that, I missed that end there. I quite like the idea actually of sorting out some Inktense, and I do. Graphitint that'll work together, especially as there is no yellow in Graphitint pencils. There's not even a brownie colour that's a yellowish colour. It's very strange. Perhaps it's because the dyes, actually, if you add yellow and green, which is the colour of yellow and grey, the colour of graphite, you get a green. So perhaps that's the reason why, is that you're just going to get green. I'll let that dry for a moment. And this one, I'm going to use the steel grey, but I'm going to put it right here, where each of these little bands terminates. So just underneath them, or the very top of the band rather, so that we get the shadow here where they, so it's not very much there, it's going to be quite subtle, but sometimes subtle is far better than in your face. And I'm just teasing this colour down here a fair amount, like so. I say it's very subtle, and I may need to go back and adjust, add a bit more, but that's no problem, because it's that back and forth of adding colour It's quite an enjoyable process, I'm discovering. The more I do this, the more I'm enjoying the process. Okay, the one I do want to do, and I think this will be the last one, I'll leave that dry and I'll come, and this one's still drying, is this one here. And this is the one where I really do want to bring out. I've got shadow here. I'm going to do it in the brown. And I'm going to pull it down like so. That's okay. And then I'll want shadow under here as well. So I'm putting the shadow underneath here. I've gone a bit far out with that one. I've gone out into the band here, which I didn't want to do, but that's okay. It's no great problem. I say, sometimes you just have to go, it is what it is. Back of the hand to wipe the colour off, because I forgot to get a tissue or kitchen towel or something to put up here. Now that centre bit is a bit too brown for my liking, so I'm just going to swipe across it with some wet water, clear water, clean water, clean water. I love redundancies people use sometimes. It irritates me, but things like clean, clear water. Well, if water's clean, it's clear. Clear means see-through. Water is see-through and transparent, unless it's mucky water. So if the water's clean, it's going to be clear. Yeah. And I'm sure I'm guilty of saying such things myself, so, but I hear it in others and I think, oh, Angela, don't do that yourself. So that's a start of this one. I am going to pop some more shadow here and here. Okay, because I want this band to be different to the other area. And if I can find my indigo, I think I might just pop some indigo here, even though this is damp, the graphite tint will come out, just to increase that shadow right at the edge and allow the brown just to really colour this section in. See if that'll work. And right at the bottom here as well, I want some. So that's a bit better. And the other thing I'm going to do is if I go to my pen box here, it's a jelly roll. I wanted got it. There we go, a souffle. Gotta have a souffle. Pen. Gotta have a souffle. Is if I get this working, hopefully I can get it working. These pens can be a bit finicky. With these seeds here, I'm going to pop dots of white in them just to bring them out. Not so much, I've put a bigger blob there. Souffle pens are great. If you haven't come across them, they are brilliant. They allow you, they don't dry as quickly as jelly roll pens. They go on, this one goes on vaguely white, and then it seems to go clear, and as it dries it goes really opaque white, and you can get a slightly raised finish to it, especially if you use it on a non-porous surface. This will work on glass or metal, apparently. I've never tried it, but they work, and I'm going to use it over here. They do dry quickly on the ball of the jelly roll pen. And I just use them for dotting, I don't use them for drawing. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting like little stars in this black background to break up these black areas, just to give them a bit of interest really. And I'm either putting, you know, single dots or, well, I've got 4 dots in one area, but they're drying quite quickly because it is quite warm in my room this morning. Sunshine, you know, what can I say? So I thought I'd do that. Bit mucky looking, that colour, but it is what it is. These ones I really would like to increase the shadow in places, and it's a good idea to leave these to dry. Oh, as I put my hand in those, typical, to let them dry, because the graphite will lay down so much better. So I'm using this steel blue on top of the indigo just to intensify the shadows right under these areas and right into the corner, just to give that, look at that, I've made a bit of a mess there, it's fine though. I've put my finger in the white dots there as well. That just increases that contrast there. And here I think I want to pop some right in the corners of these betweed areas, and quite a lot in comparison to those little bits we put at the ends. Like so. And I'm working quickly, I'm not making an effort to be terribly neat, I'm just doing what I need to do to get an effect that I like. This one over here does need quite a bit more shadow. There's not enough contrast here, so I'm going to do something that I wouldn't normally do, but I'm using a midnight black graphy tint here along the edges of these shapes, and definitely at the bottom, and leaving that indigo in the middle to speak for itself really. So not a fan of using black. Normally if I want black I'll actually use black ink and have it really black. But here I think it's justified to try and get those shadows a bit more intense. I definitely could have done with sharpening that pencil as well. The sharper the point, the more you can lay down, generally I think. Okay, that'll do. So that is a bit better. It's not wonderful, but it's better. So I'm going to leave that there and perhaps come back to it. The souffle is dried, so you can see the white. This has been brought out white, those little seeds have. I could do with some, you know, I do want to use some gold or some other colour to bring some of these shapes out. They're all very much the sameness, but I'm nearly at an hour now and I do have other things to do today. But all in all, it's quite fun to do, and I hope that it's given you some ideas. I don't think I covered any of these in yesterday's tutorials, to be honest. I think these are all new, so I've got loads more to do with you. So I hope you'll bear with and enjoy this. I'm also hoping, I did test it, I've got a fan blowing to keep my computer cool because it's getting quite hot. I think it needs a defuzzing inside. And I did check because the software I use has got noise cancelling stuff in it, so it shouldn't be anything. So if there is a bit of background noise, I do apologise. As soon as I finish this, it's going to be zapped up quite a bit. So I'm going to leave this with you. I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you enjoy the video, thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do. If you have subscribed, I'm so grateful. And if you know anybody you think would like this, then please share it with them and get them to come over to, I was going to say, to the dark side, to the light side, to the fun side, to my channel, where it's all, I always try to be full of light and joy, just for a short while in the day. I am mostly, actually. I have my moments like everybody. So take care of yourselves. Look after yourselves. Have a good day, evening, night, morning, whatever time of the day it is in the world when you watch this. But more than anything, I suppose, well, as much as anything, find time to be creative and have a go at drawing along with me. So take care. Bye-bye for now. Bye.